Compulsion Games is the first indie studio on Xbox's chopping block, according to a new report from Kotaku. Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only game news show brave enough to know. Probably only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, we said the fun stops here when they acquired Activision Blizzard, and now it's getting bad. Now they got to pay the check. And God, what else is there to say about this? This was always going to suck, and we saw it coming, and here we are. The day has arrived. Also, we don't even know that Compulsion is the first one. It's just the first one we know about. So, gosh, luckily it's not a done deal yet. Maybe there is a ray of hope here. I'm not holding my breath, though.
Yeah, Kotaku's report is pretty cut and dry, initially stating that Xbox is planning to shut down South of Midnight and We Happy Few developers Compulsion Games, later updating the story to say that the studio is currently in negotiations with Xbox about the studio's future, but that is according to an anonymous source.
South of Midnight won a Peabody Award in April for illuminating a so often overlooked corner of American cultural memory through extraordinary craft. And I did enjoy the video game. I played I think it's like 4 or 5 hours. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, very artful game. Definitely celebrating a culture and a music that isn't often represented in media. Certainly not in a celebratory way. Poetically, Kotaku notes that Xbox's new CEO Asha Sharma actually referenced this Peabody Award in an April interview with GameFile less than 2 months ago.
They're like that indie movie studio that gets you an Oscar nomination. And you're like, hey, look at us. Anyway, Avengers Doomsday is coming.
Yeah.
Stephen Totilo asked Sharma if she had a mandate as Xbox CEO, to which she replied, the big things that we're thinking about are we want to make great games, while pointing out South of Midnight's award win.
Kotaku also noted that Compulsion Games talent lead Joe Palin posted job openings on LinkedIn 2 months ago. That implies that Compulsion Games had a greenlit project and funding at the time 2 months ago.
Yeah, but projects that are just getting off the ground are probably the easiest ones to chop down, so that might be where we're at. Of course, this news is unwelcome, but not entirely unexpected, following an open letter co-signed by Xbox CEO Asha Sharma and Xbox Chief Content Officer Matt Booty last week that more or less warned of pending cost-cutting measures.
The letter stated that Xbox's accountability margin, more or less the division's profit margin, was unacceptably low at 3%. It also addressed Xbox's string of acquisitions, saying that the department was, quote, overextended and would need to, quote, reassess the balance, unquote, of its spending and investment. So, yeah, we all know what that means.
And they did. Some of Xbox's recent executive appointments are also leaving the division. The game business reports Xbox Game Studios head Craig Duncan and Xbox Game Studios chief of staff Louise O'Connor are both leaving their roles, each of which have been in their respective jobs for less than 2 years.
Yeah, and this is pretty telling, I think. Duncan has no successor at present. All of Xbox's studios will report directly to Matt Booty until a replacement is found. So yes, if Xbox is about to start cutting studios, the last person I'd want to be is the head of Xbox Game Studios and also the chief of staff of Xbox Game Studios, because yowza, that's just a nightmare that you didn't sign up for and have no desire to live through. So I don't necessarily blame them for stepping out on that role, especially relatively fresh appointees, but I guess 2 years is about the lifespan of any video game job these days. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to be that person, and I think it's pretty telling that they're just stepping out on their role and letting it all slide to Matt Booty without even having a replacement hire, because I don't think anybody would want to take that job right now either.
Plus, they may not have the money to hire those people. I think they're probably maybe saying, even if it's just like a sort of, hey, you can resign and get your, maybe we'll give you a little severance or whatever. But we were going to get rid of you anyways. And now they're gone. Because you're totally right, Lawrence. It's either they left voluntarily because they don't want to fire anybody, or they're just getting pushed out. This is all very, very bad. And I know, again, we report on Xbox talking about how they're shutting down studios, and there's lots of negative news surrounding Xbox right now. It's not because we want to. There's a lot of it. There's a bunch of news stories we had to choose from this morning that were like relatively negative. Like, for example, they might sell off the Xbox division. Microsoft might go to the Xbox division and like sell it off to somebody else. Like none of this is good. So this is something that we didn't want to see, and I predicted wrongly a couple of years ago, where I was like, they're going to shut down Ninja Theory after Hellblade 2, and they didn't. And I was like, wow, that's great. Thank God. I guess Phil Spencer was there to be their shield not anymore. So now I'm worried about Ninja Theory and and the rest, basically.
Yeah, and also, like, not to get meta about the news business, but if most stories are more than just a one-day story, especially if it's a big thing like this. Like, Xbox having financial problems is gonna be like, sorry, but there's gonna be weeks and weeks of this. It is what it is. And if one of the major console makers is going through issues, like, yeah, it's not something we're like, yes, let's get Xbox today. It just is what it is. And for me, it feels like also, I think some of us were raising this when the acquisition of Activision Blizzard was going to happen. Like, this is going to lead to layoffs. And maybe it wasn't directly, but all the money they took on, like, it gives them a lot less room to operate, as we can see, because they're bringing up things like profit margins and it's unacceptably low. It's like, like, I was in a place where they started counting the printer paper, and it's time to go when they do that. Like, they are going to have cutbacks after that. And I think that's what we're seeing way more than that now.
Yeah, I wonder about that within the Xbox campus. If they've started reeling back in on the catering, maybe the coffee stand shuts down at 2:00 now instead of going until 8. I don't know. You get the. Having talked to many developers and even living with one for more than a decade now, there's definitely animal of prey instinct that starts to kick in when the money starts drying up. And yeah, when they start rationing printer paper or telling people to use fewer pens around the office, the good times are kind of coming to an end. And that's when especially a lot of people that are used to better treatment start looking for different jobs. So there's a variety of reasons that executives could be departing the studio. I think also, having no money is part of it. If they're looking to trim their payroll costs and stuff like that, they might be asking some of their more well compensated executives to consider moving on, or what they might do with a generous retirement package or a pension or something. Well, no pensions, sorry. More of severance. That's the word I was looking for. But as far as these rough waters go, this is very bizarre, because Bruce, you mentioned Ninja Theory, and that's one studio that I've been afraid of. Yeah, ever since this acquisition closed with Activision Blizzard, it really seems like it is truly the death of a sort of utopian plan that Phil Spencer was either helming or defending or putting into place. The idea that you can have this mixed roster of blockbuster studios like Call of Duty and stuff like that, but then also indie darlings like Double Fine and Ninja Theory and things like that. I think they deployed a very discerning eye with the studios they chose to get, and they picked indie studios that still ship pretty regularly, with the idea that they could sort of season Game Pass with this alternating current of big blockbuster games to attract new subscribers, and then potentially these indie darlings that would convince subscribers to stay on the service, or introduce people to these fantastic new games. So they wanted the commerce and the art together, and that was supposed to be Game Pass. And now the rubber's meeting the road, and now it's just all business. I think you mentioned some of the other headlines that we were looking over. One of the ones where Sharma wanted a refocus on bigger brands like Elder Scrolls and Fallout. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, we were collectively very frustrated that Fallout Seasons 1 and 2 came and went without any kind of banner product from Bethesda. And that's just one of those things where if I'm an executive at Xbox, if I'm leading Xbox Game Studios, I would be smashing the table, being like, Bethesda, how did you let this opportunity come and go? They did have Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition, but that was kind of like a repack. They added new bugs because that's what Bethesda always does. They put a bunch of community content in there and at least had something ready to go for Season 2, but it still wasn't a Fallout 3 remaster. I don't know how you whiff that twice. So I can see, even from the outside, there's some frustrations with Xbox Game Studios and not having the right product in the right place at the right time. So I get the motivation now, but man, they're just turning into another game studio. PlayStation did this a couple of years ago. They closed Asobo Studio, closed a couple of their indie studios, tossed Ueda out because his games weren't selling. So it's just a bummer to see the upper echelons of gaming all congeal around this. They're just tossing any kind of artistry out because I guess there's no room for it in the budget.
Anecdotally, Lawrence and Brian and I have all worked at creative companies that make stuff. They make content, whether or not it's YouTube videos or probably produced television for years, things like this. And I would hear this very often at these companies before the bad times came. And the phrase was always, don't worry, you just keep making your art. we'll handle all the distribution. We'll handle all the way that the customer gets your stuff. You just make it good, and we'll handle the way that they get it. And I had wide eyes whenever I heard that, because that's wrong. Like, that, it was always wrong, and even in the good times, it was wrong. And that's what I think Phil Spencer was telling all these studios. Was like, guys, just make your video games. We'll figure it out. Game Pass is going to figure it out. And then he turned around and spent $70 billion on Call of Duty. And you know what's going to happen in this case. They spent $200 million on whatever, Ninja Theory, and then they spent $70 billion on Activision. You know what's going to go first, and you know what they're going to focus on. So it's really scary, and this is something, just being at a company like this, when they focus on something and they keep telling you to focus on making your art, is that, you know, if you're not making the thing that makes money, then you're going to go first. And I've experienced this firsthand, so I feel very, very bad for the studios that are now under Xbox. All these studios that Xbox bought that now are being like, oh, our game never made any money. What are we going to do? Hopefully they get acquired by like another company, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
I remember like years ago, I wrote a thing about Greg Miller from Kinda Funny was talking about how he was talking to somebody at one of the newly acquired studios, and they were like, oh, Microsoft's great. They're just like, go make whatever you want. That's what go make it. And when I heard that, my butthole just clenched, because I was like, oh no. And I feel like Phil had a maximalist vision of what to do, sort of making the Netflix of games. I think ignoring that video games take a long time to make. They have to be cut. They're so different from how movies are made. People consume them differently. And I think this new crew is going to downsize to, you know, essentially, I think in their minds, correct what went wrong under the previous regime. And I think that's what you're seeing here. It's a huge bummer. And the people who have to pay for it are always the people in the trenches. And all the executives who told us this merger was a great idea are gone too, by the way. Not going to name names, but the ones who did PR for it all the time are no longer with Microsoft. And now everybody else has to like clean it all up. So it just fucking sucks.
It fucking sucks. I agree. Yeah. And you would think, if you are that studio, if you're there to lend artistic integrity to Game Pass or the Xbox division, you would think bagging a Peabody Award is like, you did your job. You brought home an award, and now your studio can like brag about it. But nope, because like you said, Brian, there's a changing of the guard, and they don't care anymore. And the mandate is no longer bring us home an award so that we can brag to our executive friends about how much art we're making. It's, we need to make money, and that's it. And yeah, kind of like you said, Bruce, it's frustrating to be in a position where you can see that coming and everyone's telling you that that's not the case and don't worry about it. But if you had a little more autonomy and a little more awareness of what you're doing, then maybe you could plan for the future or predict these things or put yourself in a better position. So here we are, and what extra sucks is all these studios are going to get flushed out to the most inhospitable investment scene in gaming in the last 10 years, probably. What was it? Was it Nagoshi, the guy who announced a new Like a Dragon kind of game? Hold on. Even he can't. Toshihiro Nagoshi, the guy who got an entire franchise off the ground, couldn't even get a new studio funded. He did. Yeah, Gang of Dragon was funded. That funding was pulled back, and now we don't even know what's going on. It looks like his new initiative's closed, and he's got a decade plus of proven business track record in this business. So I don't know. I feel so bad. I feel so bad. The business realist in me says, well, you know, it always was a melee, and at least those studios got funded this far and were able to, you know, employ their employees and make the projects they made. And now people have resumes with stuff on them, whereas they may not have if Xbox wasn't throwing around money like this. Okay, but that doesn't really make anyone feel better now. So, and yeah, it's just a rough job market. So it's all awful, all of it.
Yeah, it always comes down to money. every corporation, it's always the same. You can always bank on the fact that they want to make money. They don't want Peabody Awards. They want money. Thank you very much for watching Inside Games. We reported on a lot of studio closures over the past 5 years. So we are very grateful to be able to do this still. So thank you very much for watching. Your support is everything on YouTube if you've subscribed to the channel and told your friends about the videos. And also, we have a Patreon that if you support that, we have an extra beefy, huge, cheesy, extra cheesy, lots of extra toppings, thank you, for that Patreon, because you supporting there with your actual cash is huge. So thank you, John Ward and Gallardi, Liger Zero, Panzer, Jack Willis. We promise that when we inevitably win the Peabody Award for our brave reporting, we will not shut down 2 months later unless Microsoft acquires us.
What an amazing 4 years that would be.